What's going on, guys? Your boy Amazing. We're back with another video, and in today's video, guys, we're actually going to be doing the updated tier list as of September 2024 here, guys, for Grand Cross across both the PVE side of the game and the PvP side of the game. So if you guys enjoy videos like this, definitely make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. I appreciate all the support on the channel as of late, guys. It definitely does mean a lot. And so in this video, what we're going to do here is I have my Grand Cross open on the side here so you guys can see the unit. We're going to explain the unit's kit on the side, and then we're actually going to rank it on the actual tier list that I have here on Tier List Maker. So this is what it's kind of looking like right now, guys, for the tier list. So you guys can kind of see what it is. I do have the last month's tier list, so I'll link it in the description if you guys want to see, you know, what happened last month and what changed in terms of new unit releases. But yeah, we have a good chunk of characters that released this month. We have Jenna, the collab units being Nael and Dem Ur, and then we have Camila and then LR King. And then I don't know if I'm gonna move any of the other Overlord characters though. I think from where I had them in their tiers, I feel like they stay. Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of the older ones change, so I'm probably not gonna touch those characters. But definitely the newer ones we're gonna have to talk about for sure. So yeah, let's start with Jenna then, guys. Yeah, so we'll start with Jenna. So Jenna is the first character to go over on the list here, guys. In terms of what Jenna is actually able to do, if we look at her passive here, increases the attack-related stats of human allies participating in the battle by 10%. And if a human ally dies during the enemy's turn, increase all enemies' damage taken by 50% for 2 turns. And this is also a sub-slot effect, right? So active even in the sub-slot. You gotta bear that in mind. Also, she does also have a Holy Relic, which is also going to work in the sub-slot too, which increases the attack-related stats of human allies participating in the battle by 12%. So you now have 10% from this part of the passive, 12% right here, so that's a 22% attack-related stat buff. And then also you're getting, yeah, if a human ally dies during the enemy's turn, you get damage taken 50% increase on the enemy. So yeah, that's a fairly substantial debuff that you can apply, and obviously it is going to be fairly helpful too. In terms of her actual skills though, she's going to have remove buff single target and then cancel stance at the rank 3. In terms of her second skill here, guys, it's just going to be standard attack percent. So honestly, these skills are not like the greatest or anything like that, but I mean, I guess they're there. And then her ultimate is going to be break. This is at the 1 to 6 dupe level, so inflicts break damage equal to 560% of attack on one enemy, times 2 damage against enemies assuming stances. So that's pretty much the kit right there of the Druid Jenna, guys, where we actually going to rank this character now on the tier list. Now, in terms of the actual ranking for where we're going to actually put her on the tier list, I think, and which one are we on right now? This is the PVE tier list. So PVE, I actually do see a lot of value, and the reason why I actually do see a lot of value with this character is because Ragnarok Bond is a really good backline support, like, you know, we run all the time. I got to at least put her in the B tier along with Ragnarok Bond, because I think that, like, backline support effect for humans, having 22% attack-related stats from the backline is going to be pretty nice. I mean, it's pretty niche. Like, you're not going to actually use humans all the time, and you don't really get that option to be able to use them every single time. But when they are good, Jenna backline is actually going to be an option in PvE. So I actually do think the B tier is fair. Yeah, I don't think you're really using her on field for anything. Yeah, she's really just a backline support. And honestly, this part right here where if an ally dies during the enemy's turn, you're only getting in PvP because you're not getting in PvE. So I'm really only evaluating the 10% attack related stats and the 22% here, or the 12% here, which in total is more. It does give more attack related stats than Ragnarok Bond, so right there you can use that as an argument, like, okay, maybe Jenna should be A. But they're the same type of unit, guys. Ragnarok Bond is universal though, whereas Jenna is exclusively for human teams. So bear that in mind, man. So yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna put Jenna on the, what is it, the PvE tier list. Now moving on to the PvP tier list here, we can actually rank her as well. Now I actually do think she is gonna be in probably sub meta. Because if you're running like, or maybe A, because the thing is with Jenna is, like, if you're running a human counter team for the new meta that's going on right now, you actually can run her backline, and then like Roxy, you know, Roxy, Escanor, and Arthur, right? Like, you could do like a DPS oriented human team just to kill the upcoming character here that we have to rank on this list. But yeah, no, the team I think with Jenna is not really the greatest, but I mean the 22% attack related stats is felt, guys, for sure. It's definitely going to be something that is noticeable, you know, 100%. So we got to bear that in mind, man. Yeah, I'll probably say A tier though is where I'm gonna, you know, actually land for this character. Just because of the fact that I do think, you know, she has some viability. It's just you're not gonna see her in the main meta teams, and I'm gonna have to change this as well once we do get to these Overlord characters, because we got a little bit of updates here with some of the teams, guys. But yeah, so that is going to be the Druid Jenna right there. Now let's actually move on now, and we'll go back to the PvE side, and we'll talk about Nael now. So let's actually pull her up, and we'll see what she's able to do. Alrighty guys, so Nael right here, she is going to be one of the Overlord collab characters, the new releases as well. And so in terms of what she's actually going to do for her passive, at the start of the battle, shockwaves are applied to all enemies for 2 turns, and then attack the attack of the unknown race allies increased by 10% for each unknown race ally participating in the battle. And then when the hero uses a all target attack, it's going to apply the shock rank 2 effect on hit for enemies for 2 turns, and increases unknown allies damage dealt by 20% when attacking against enemies affected by the shock or the shock wave, pretty much, right? Shockwave is going to apply shock rank 3 for 2 turns when taking damage from the enemy's skill, and it excludes damage from additional hits as well. So yeah, that's going to be her passive. Now moving on to her Holy Relic. Her Holy Relic effect is going to increase allies' basic stats by 3% for each shock or shock effect on the enemies up to 12%. So you're getting a little bit extra basic stats. I mean, it's kind of nice. The main thing to take away from her passive though is you get the unknown attack buff. I think that's really big. You know, 10% attack for each unknown race ally, you know, on field, I think is very strong. And you can get up to 40% at a time, which is really good, right? Because if you have a 4v4 setting, or like a demonic beast setting, you have 4 people on field, so that's obviously really good. For our first skill right here, Electric Blast is going to deal 200%, 300%, 500%. It's going to be attack related stats plus 25% for each shock effect on the enemies. So there you go. And then for the second skill here, it's just going to be AoE Pierce. So 100%, 150 to 50. So triple the Pierce rate increase. And then for ultimate here, guys, which is actually a fairly good ultimate and not really dupe reliant either. The Twin Maximize Magic Chain is going to increase all allies' basic stats by 30% at 1 in a 6 as well. So bear that in mind. You can use this at 1 in a 6. And then inflicts power strike damage equal to 600% of attack on one enemy. And power strike is obviously a very, very strong effect. Additional damage equal to enemy's resistance. So there we go, guys. Now, in terms of where I think Nael is going to be ranked on the PvE tier list, I think I actually am going to have her in the A tier. And the reason why I actually say this is because she is a really good buffer for PvE, right? As I mentioned, you know, having 10%, you know, unknown ally race attack increase for the entire team, but stacking up to 40%, I think is really, really good. She has an ultimate here, which gives 30% basic stats on top of that. And if you do have these shock effects on the enemy, you are gaining basic stats too. So if you are running like an unknown team, I actually do think Nael is a better Nanashi, really, right? If we're talking like, you know, supportive effect on demonic beasts and just in general PvE content. So I gotta definitely give Nael the A tier at the minimum. She is also very good on floor 4 Bird. I think she was really good on Nidhogg when I tested her out. And yeah, I mean, from there, I think that's about it, mostly. She really is good on floor 4 Bird and yeah, just general demonic beast content though. So yeah, I'm gonna give her probably the A tier. You know, also she's pretty good in Demon King Fight 2, which is definitely another reason why you'd want to have this character for sure. And yeah, I think A tier is definitely fitting for where this character is gonna place, man. At least on the PvE side of the game. Alright, now for the PvP side, I don't think Nael is going to be a meta unknown character, unfortunately. The problem is right now with unknowns, and I'm going to actually move them down now that I'm talking about unknowns as well. But I think they're not really a meta team, like a top meta team, at least right now, right? The meta has kind of shifted a little bit, guys, so unknowns have kind of fallen out a little bit. So I am going to move down all the unknown characters I had from last month. And the main reason why I am doing that, though, is because of just the way the meta's kind of shifted with the next character we're going to be talking about right here. But yeah, with that new character, a lot of the meta has shifted and a lot of things have changed, man. So unfortunately, I don't think Nael really is in the upper echelon of unknowns. I honestly think she probably fits around here, because if you are running her, you're just trying to run for the extra attack, and that's really all you're gaining from it. It is not really like a super substantial buff. So that's the only thing that kind of sucks about running Nael in PvP, because you're only getting 30% at the max. Which is still good, but like Nanashi can do that from the backline, so you really don't even need to run the character in a PvP setting. So yeah, other than that though, guys, I mean, that's where I'd probably rank Nael on the PvP and PvE side of the game right there. So yeah, let's move on now and talk Dem Ur. Alright guys, so Dem Ur here is actually one of the most insane PvP characters we've had in recent time, man. Very, very strong character. Let's go over his kit and we'll talk about where we're going to rank him on the tier list. So, for his passive right here, Devil's Chancellor. At the start of the battle, mind control is applied to the enemy with the highest attack and an enemy that has a lower attack than the hero. The hero is given the additional race Demon, and for each Demon ally participating in the battle, the basic stats increase by 5% and their damage taken decreases by 10%. At the start of an ally's turn, Blazing Inferno is applied on all enemies for 2 turns, and the hero's damage dealt increases by 50% when attacking an attribute advantage. And when an enemy uses a debuff attack skill, their max HP decreases by 30% for 1 turn. So yeah, mind control is going to be 30% minus damage dealt. Dem Ur cannot be targeted if other units or other enemies exist. And then the Blazing Inferno effect is going to be damage taken plus 15% can be stacked up to 8 times. So it's kind of like a, you know, a different type of, like Ignite type effect, right? It's just a little separate debuff. Yeah, I mean, like, just off the rip from his passive, guys, there's a lot of stuff going on. He cannot be targeted, first thing. He lowers the enemy's damage dealt by 30% as well, because you're mind controlling pretty much everybody. He gives basic stats damage reduction to demons. He becomes a demon. And yeah, and then he stops Chaos Arthur with this right here, where when an enemy uses a debuff attack skill, their max HP decreases. So bro is just insane, right? Just on that alone. And then moving on to his Holy Relic right here. At the start of an ally's turn, applies Blazing Inferno on all enemies for 2 turns. Then increases Demon Ally's damage dealt by 5% for each Blazing Inferno on the enemies up to 40%. So that's obviously going to be a fairly substantial buff too. So you get some more damage dealt for every Blazing Inferno. Now moving on to his actual skills here, we have Claws of Hellfire, which is going to inflict black fire damage equal to 160% of attack on 1 enemy. Black fire is going to be ×2 critical chance increase and 80% damage dealt for each Blazing Inferno effect on the enemy. This is going to be 160, 240, 400 on the skill ranks. And then moving on to his second skill here, it's going to inflict the Inferno damage equal to 100% of attack on all enemies. Inferno is going to be ×3 damage against debuffed enemies. And then damage dealt is going to increase by 50% on enemies affected by the mind control debuff. The scaling for this skill, guys, is going to be 100, 150, and 250 respectively. And then moving on from that, we do have his ultimate here, which is going to be at the, this is 3 out of 6 for me. So this obviously does depend on where you're duped and where you're at. And I will specify the part you do get on dupes. But applies 2 Blazing Inferno effects on all enemies and inflicts sever damage equal to 420% of attack. Then applies Conflagration on all allies. This is only at 2 out of 6 or higher. So bear that in mind. But one thing to take into account though is at 2 out of 6, it stays at this 30% ignore. So it's not going to increase based on the amount of dupes you get past that. It just stays at 30% ignore defense, crit defense, and crit resist. Right? So you have sever and then ignoring with Conflagration. So yeah, that's pretty much the kill right there for Dem Ur, guys. In terms of where we're gonna rank him, and we'll talk PvP first because I think that's pretty important right now in terms of the meta game. But he's gonna go in the meta right there, guys. Honestly, probably top of the meta alongside the demon characters in the game, and I will put all the demon options that you can run as well. Because Assault Melee is really good and a viable option if you're not running DK Melee. And then yeah, for the backline though, do we have Nanashi up here? Right here, yeah. So Nanashi does actually stay. He actually does stay because of the fact that the 2 of the demons right here are actually unknown race. So they actually still get Nanashi's Holy Relic buff of 30% basic stats, and you can still run him backline for this team, even though, you know, you wouldn't be getting the full buffs for everybody. Because Assault Melee or DK Meliodas wouldn't get it depending on which one you're running. But you're still getting it for like the majority of the team, and that's still really strong with the buffs of, you know, lowering the enemy's gauge and all that. I mean, guys, this is gonna be the team right here, man, and the top team in PvP right now. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the strongest team in PvP, and yeah, it's just very, very dominant, man. So yeah, that's going to be Dem Ur in the PvP side of the game right there, guys. Let's actually move on now to the PvE side of the game and where we're actually going to rank him there. Now, in terms of PvE, though, I don't think Dem Ur is honestly that good. I'll be honest, man. I think he's probably going to be like a C tier option, really, or even worse, because this character is debuff reliant. We got to remember that, right? If we actually look at his passive here, we're only getting the damage dealt lower on the enemy if we have a higher attack or if they have the highest attack enemy. So if it's a, you know, a situation where like Ratatosker, right? Depending on if the stumps or whatever, if they were to have high attack, then they would get, you know, mind control, but then maybe the rat himself wouldn't, right? So that's just an example right there, right? It's obviously not like always in practice that's going to be the case, but just in general, like PvE, I mean, you're not really going to get much use out of this character, guys. Very debuff reliant. I mean, his AoE is, you know, only against debuffs you get the extra damage. His single target is still good, but you do need Blazing Inferno on the enemy to be able to do a lot more damage with it as well. So yeah, I mean, very like reliant on debuffs is kind of sucks in PvE, and it's kind of the same thing with Transcendent Bond. Honestly, it's like the same situation as like they're really strong PvP units, but then in PvE, you know, they definitely start to, you know, have problems, and that's where Dem Ur, I feel like, does have the issue. So yeah, that's where I'd rank him in the PvE side of the game, guys. He's not going to be anywhere close to any of the other PvE units in the game, not even B tier or A tier. I think he is, unfortunately, a C tier PvE type character. Alright guys, now moving on to the next character we got on the tier list is going to be the Guardian Deity Camila. This is the brand new character that released literally like yesterday on Global, and so we finally were able to get this character. And so let's actually talk about what she's able to do now, and then we'll also go over LR King right after this as well, and we'll actually rank him. So for Guardian Deity Camila, for her passive right here, it's going to increase the basic stats of applicable allies by 15%, and at the start of the allies turn, increase max HP, critical resistance, and critical defense of the applicable allies with 4 orbs or less in their ultimate move gauge by 25%, and grants them the guard effect for 1 turn. So the applicable allies are going to be unknown race or 7 catastrophes, and the guard effect is going to remove 1 orb from the attacker's ultimate move gauge when attacked, and that's going to be limit once. So that's going to be pretty much once per turn, but this does refresh every single turn though, right? It's at the start of the allies turn, and it does the buff. So yeah, that's going to be the passive right there. Moving on to the Holy Relic here, which has already been in the game, but is, you know, definitely important for this character. It's going to increase the attack and pierce rate of unknown race allies with 4 orbs or less in the ultimate move gauge by 20%, and then also decrease attack related stats of enemies who use skills during the enemy's turn by 5% for 1 turn. And that's going to apply before skill activation as well, so that they do get lowered as they're attacking. So yeah, Guardian Deity Camila, in terms of just like the passes alone, guys, is a comparable backline support to Nanashi. Yeah, I mean, you know, she is a definitely an option you can run. She has a fairly good CC as well. That's another thing to mention too. And yeah, I mean, she's just going to act as kind of a Nanashi until you get maximum ultimate move gauge. Pretty much before you get maximum ultimate move gauge, she's going to be as good as Nanashi, if not better, because every single character is going to have it until you get that max ultimate move gauge. So yeah, now moving on to our skills here, we have for the first skill being deplete gauge, so it's just going to be gauge single target decrease. And then moving on from that, we do also have the spike right here, so spike AoE, and you guys can see the scaling with that. And then for ultimate here, it's going to actually transform here, guys. So if you actually click the transformation, this is what it looks like when she's transformed. And then in terms of what happens with her passive here, she's going to remove all debuffs from allies and grants them debuff immunity for 2 turns at the end of the allies turn, limit once. And then she has her Holy Relic obviously still into effect. For her skills here now, it's going to be just raw attack percent and then into delete. So you have a skill delete on the rank 2 and 3. And then the second skill here is just going to be sever AoE. And then straight up for ultimate here, guys, just going to be attack percent regardless of the dupes as well. So attack percent damage is 840% of attack to 1 enemy. Alrighty guys, now where are we actually going to rank Camila on the tier list now? So this is the PvE tier list. So PvE, I mean, she's got to go in the same slot as Nanashi. Where's Nanashi at? Yeah. So where I put Nanashi in PvE is going to be the same place I put Camila. I mean, I feel like they're going to be the same viability in PvE. Maybe even Camila is better, arguably. It's possible. Because you could definitely argue like, okay, maybe you would want to get her transformed and get that debuff immunity for your whole team, and you would still be getting this like Holy Relic support, but you might not be getting this though, because you would be losing this by the time you get your gauge. So I guess that's like the only thing that kind of sucks, and this is mainly tailored for backline support, as you guys see, active even in the sub slot. So you're mainly running this character as a backline supportive character for, you know, whatever you're doing, if you're doing PvE with this character. So I think she's pretty comparable to Nanashi though. If you want more damage backline, she's going to give more damage than Nanashi though. Because she's giving 20% attack here, and then you're getting 15% basic stats here, where Nanashi is just 30% basic stats overall. So I do think that she's still very niche though. You're probably not going to have much content to run her on. But I think she's very comparable to Nanashi. Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm going to rank her on the tier list for the PvE side of the game. Now for PvP though, I think that's a little bit different, and because Nanashi is so strong as he is right now, you could argue Camila is up there. But no one's really running Camila on Demon Team, at least from what I've seen. That's the only thing. Yeah, I'm honestly not too sure. I guess like another thing too to mention about Nanashi over Camila is that he can give the blue buffs to anybody, whereas Camila right here for the guard effect, you have to be a 7 catastrophe or unknown race ally though, right? Because it's applicable allies, right? Or no, wait. Increases basic stats of applicable allies by 15%, and yeah, so it is part of it, right? So Camila is relying on the fact that you have only unknowns and catastrophes to be able to get that, whereas Nanashi can just kind of get it freely. So yeah, I am going to leave Nanashi at the top. I'm going to put Camila in A. I think she's still an option on this unknown variant, like if you're running Thor, you know, Sabnak, Baldur, or probably not Baldur because she's attack buff, probably like Victoria there, but she's still an option, and I think she's really good for PvP as a backline, just another Nanashi type character. And yeah, if you're running like a maxed out unknown team, she does have more CC than Nanashi, so I would probably say in general she is better at the end of the day, but they're very comparable, and I mean, if you already have a build Nanashi, you really don't need to level up this character or even pull for the character. So that's where I'm going to put Camila, guys. Let's actually move on now to LR King. LR King now, he's going to be a pretty cool character to talk about because I actually do really love this character and what he's able to do. So let's start with the passive right here, guys. So we have Fairy King, and this is also active in the subslot as well. So it increases the basic stats of applicable allies by 20%, and if the hero is participating in the battle, all enemies' critical resistance decreases by 40% for 1 turn at the start of the allies' turn. And if allies participating in the battle are the applicable allies, the hero's skills rank up or skills or ranks are increased at the start of the battle limit once. And then in addition, if there is a petrified enemy, applicable allies' damage dealt increases by 50% and damage taken decreases by 40%. And so the applicable allies are going to be fairies and giant characters. So the only thing you're really getting from the backline support though for King, guys, is going to be the basic stats. Everything else you have to have him on field to get, right? So that's going to be very important to notice. For his Holy Relic here, increases the hero's damage dealt by 80% when attacking debuffed enemies. So you guys can see, you know, he's getting that little like petrify effect for damage dealt, but he's also going to be dealing more damage against enemies that are debuffed as well. And remember, he is applying a critical resistance lower built in his kit now, so he's able to actually auto apply a debuff and then deal damage through that. So yeah, that's going to be his Holy Relic. For his single target card now, it's actually going to be pure single target while being able to petrify. So you have Pierce, Petrify, so Petrify rank 2, rank 3, right? So 1 and 2 turns. And then for the cleanse card right here, it's going to remove debuffs from all allies and increase their HP related stats by 10% for 2 turns. And this is going to scale up to what is that, 15%, 20%, and then the HP diminish is going to go from 30 to 50 from the initial one that just removes debuffs, right? So yeah, very good skill as well. I think this is a fairly strong skill too. And then for his ultimate here, guys, depending on your dupe level, and this is at the 6 out of 6 dupe level on my main account, it's going to increase all allies attack related stats by 30% for 2 turns, then inflicts shatter damage equal to 630% of attack on all enemies, and shatter is just going to ignore resistance, right? So you're going to hit through the resistance of the enemy, so that's very strong. Now, in terms of where we're actually going to rank King on the tier list, guys, I think King probably lands for PvP. I am going to actually do a major shift for PvP right here. I actually am going to do this. I don't know if this is a crazy thing to say, and I don't think that they're better than Unknown, though. Let me preface that. So I guess I'll put them behind the Unknown team, but they're not ranked in the tier, though, guys. But pretty much, I do think Fairies are a standard meta team or like sub-meta team. You can run this team and beat all the meta teams, which is kind of crazy to think. I did not expect this team to be as strong as it is, but LR King, you know, providing that basic stats, you have, you know, Gloxinia giving you the basic stats for Fairies as well, with the defense related that he provides, like, that's obviously very strong. You have a lane here, and your backline supportive options are usually, you have a few options, right? You can run, Helbram back, you can run Festival of Zeldris, which I have in A. Yeah, you have options. Where is Helbram? I'll probably move him up, I guess now to probably B, because you still want to run Festival of Zeldris, I'd say. But you can run him, and he is an option. So yeah, I mean, there is, like, you know, some viability with Fairies in the meta right now, guys, which is kind of crazy to think, because you don't think this character, you know, becomes that strong of a DPS, but he is insane. He actually just is really good. So yeah, and I've had him beat Dem Ur teams in PvP, guys. Like, I've had it happen, man. Like, very consistently too. Like, if you kill the Gelda turn 1 with King, which you can do, you kill Gelda, then you kill the DK melee or you know, assault melee, and then you kill the Nanashi, then the Dem Urs, they're all dead. They all die one by one. So it's obviously very strong. So yeah, I think that's a fair placement for King in the the PvP side of the game. Now to the PvE though, guys, I don't know about King in PvE because he's very restrictive, right? You have to run him on fairies or giants, and because of that, that means your full team is probably not getting that 20% basic stats you want. So I think he is very niche. You can definitely use him on some content though in the game, and you know, if you're running him maybe backline support for like a giant team because he's still providing the 20% basic stats for that team, you could probably run that. And then even in like guild boss, I can see him being probably all right too, just, you know, for the giant fairy team, for I forget his name, for Belgius, I guess, right? Yeah, I think he'll be a B tier character. He's definitely niche. You know, kind of in the same situation as like Gulther, where like rank up is nice, but like you can't really use rank up in a lot of the PvE content nowadays. And it's the same thing with King, where like for his kit, really, you're not really using a diminished heal card, and you're not really using fairies and giants specifically, right? So that's obviously the problem that arises with King. But yeah, so that's gonna be my ranking right there though, guys, for the PvP and PvE tier list as of the 19th of September at the time of recording this video. So it's gonna be out on the 20th. But yeah, so that's pretty much it, man. We'll see what we get with the festival next week though, guys, and hopefully it does shake up the meta a little bit too. Dem Ur is very, very dominant right now, man, so that's something to definitely take into account. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the tier list here. Let me know also if you like the format of the video where I have the you know, the little pop-up menu on the side here, and then I have my tier list on the left here. I think this is kind of a cool layout too for the video, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. So that's gonna be it, and I hope you guys do enjoy the video. We'll see you guys in the next one, man. Peace out. Have a great rest of your day, guys. See you later, man.